In a faraway jungle, there is a creature called a golem who takes care of nature. He watches everything in the jungle, making sure everything follows the rules. He lives for 1,000 years and then goes back to the earth. But one day, he meets a small human girl named Somali in the jungle. To his surprise, she calls him Daddy. From that moment, the golem becomes her protector. They leave the jungle and go to a big city with tall buildings. It's both good and dangerous. The golem warns Somali about the dangers they might face. She listens, but she's more interested in the stray cats in the city. As they walk around, Somali sees a cat moving gracefully through the city streets. It reminds her that even in a busy city, there is beauty and mystery. They get hungry, and the golem takes Somali to a special restaurant known for its unique dish called Little Somali Rice Stuffed Lanternfish. It looks strange, but the golem thinks it's good for her growth. The waiter, who has many arms, is curious about them. When they find out the golem is a guardian of the forest and Somali is from the Minotaur clan, wearing a horned sweatshirt, people in the restaurant are surprised. The server asks why they're in the city, and the golem says they're looking for humans. This gets everyone's attention, and they start talking about humans being sold in the market or even eaten as a delicacy. The unicorn elephant, who is lovely and wise, doesn't know where humans are. So, the server tells an old story. A long time ago, humans and monsters lived separately and didn't know about each other. But one day, a human meets some monsters, and it doesn't go well. Humans think the monsters are weird and don't like them, and this leads to fighting. Humans lose the war, and the monsters think they have gotten rid of humans. The Cyclops talks about hunting down the few humans left, and the yellow font says humans are kept as pets or food. After Somali hears the story, the golem wants to leave. The monsters ask where they would stay, and at first, the golem suggests sleeping outside. But Dragon Mama suggests they stay at an inn to keep Somali safe, and they agree. In their room at the inn, Somali explores while the golem, confused by her actions, locks the door. Somali's fake horn breaks and the golem fixes it. She sings a happy song about her dad fixing things until the golem hears someone outside. He quiets her and listens to the footsteps, which go away when another guest comes in. Somali teases her dad for being scared, saying she can feel his tension. The golem, who can't feel, tells her to sleep, but Somali playfully says, "Denial denied," and refuses to sleep. Little Somali eventually falls asleep, and her dad, the golem, keeps a close watch in their dimly lit room. He rolls up his sleeve, revealing the cracks on his arm. The next day, Somali is amazed by her fixed horn, and the golem tells her to be careful not to break it again. She thanks him, even though he doesn't expect gratitude. Somali asks where they're going today, thinking it's just for shopping. She's excited as they explore, seeing exotic birds, puppets, and a juggler with many arms. But she can't help but notice other children having fun with their dads, making her feel a little jealous. Her dad's voice brings her back to reality, and they continue their day. Later, they argue with a merchant who offers a low price for the golem's stones, calling them common. The golem gets frustrated and grabs a nearby ring, making the frogman nervous. The golem examines the ring and shows it's fake, and then he reveals that other goods in the shop are also fake, like impure gold and low-quality gemstones. The frogman finally pays the right amount, feeling threatened. But when the golem turns around, he realizes Somali has disappeared again. Somali follows a tricky cat into a spooky, unfamiliar alley. The golem back at the eatery becomes worried about her safety and follows her cues from noisy birds. As Somali ventures further, her curiosity turns to fear as she stumbles upon 5 imposing creatures. The cat, revealing its mysterious nature, decides to assist Somali. Just in time, the golem arrives with his unsettling eye and chases the monster cat away, bringing relief to Somali. Later, the cat returns to the eatery and shares the encounter, raising concerns about Somali's scent. Dragon Mama dismisses it as a trivial matter, but the implications disturb her. The golem cautions Somali about the danger of revealing her humanity, and explains how he keeps an eye on her, monitoring her behavior and emotions. To prevent her from impulsively wandering off, he starts holding her hand, a lesson he learned from observing city people. Somali initially hesitated but ultimately held his finger with both her tiny hands, feeling a warm connection. Somali nearly gets distracted by a butterfly, but the golem gently pulls her back, acknowledging the effectiveness of hand-holding. He considers exploring more efficient methods but finds Somali prefers their current arrangement. By the campfire, the golem rolls up his sleeves, inspects his worn parts, and notices Somali has awakened, captivated by the rising sun. Later, she successfully catches breakfast fish and learns from the golem that striking stones together can create fire. He cautions her against trying for now, and they decide to gather riverbank plants until the flames steady. Throughout the day, something lurks in the bushes. During breakfast, the golem assures Somali that the hidden creatures pose no threat. Rabbits approach, with one allowing her to hug it, revealing their soft, fluffy nature. The black rabbit alerts the golem to something in the forest, surprising Somali as she realizes her father, like other forest guardians, can communicate with animals who have been snitching on her wandering adventures. One rabbit snatches a honey mushroom, prompting Somali to chase after it despite the golem's warning about uneven ground. Worried, he asks if she is hurt, and she replies, "Daddy, I'm not an object." The golem rephrases his question, asking if she is injured, and she admits to scraping her knee. As he tends to the wound, Somali's tears well up, and she confesses that it hurts. A four-horned dwarf named Shizuna arrives and treats Somali's minor injury with nature-based medicine. Shizuna invites them to his forest home, where a tomato mishap occurs involving Ashira, Shizuna's assistant. Somali's injury is healed, and they discuss Shizuna's unique healing methods. Somali questions if Shizuna is a child due to his small stature. Shizuna explains dwarf physiology. Ashira bakes cakes that please Somali. The golem asks to learn medicine in exchange for Shizuna studying his body, which Ashira strongly opposes. Shizuna, quick to ease Somali's concerns, jokes about the request, and the golem willingly chips off a part of himself. Somali inquires if it hurts, but the golem explains that he can't feel pain. Somali then assists Ashira with chores, wanting to reciprocate her father's care and sacrifices with her efforts. While Shizuna teaches the golem about medicine, Somali expresses her love for her father through her willingness to help. The golem remains pragmatic, citing sufficiency as his motive. Shizuna notices the golem's clothing and worries that he aims to preserve more of his skin. This evokes guilt in Shizuna for his earlier request. The golem explains that when Somali cries, he observes the same expression on her face as he currently feels, which agitates a part of him. He never wants to see her cry like that again. Shizuna chuckles, claiming the golem experiences a hint of heartbreak, though the golem denies any emotional involvement, emphasizing golem's lack of emotions. However, Shizuna senses that he is an ice golem who doesn't want to see Somali cry. Before the golem can respond, Somali's familiar voice cries out, and she announces Yabashira's sweets. After putting Somali to sleep, the golem thanks Shizuna and Yabashira for offering her a room, apologizing for her behavior. Yabashira, however, finds her childishness endearing and heartwarming, appreciating the sight of children acting like children. Yabashira's question about Somali's parents leaves the golem contemplating the uncertain nature of their journey. Shizuna and Yabashira are equally curious about their motivations. The golem explains that he is searching for Somali's parents, intending to return her to them, and that will be the end of their journey. Shizuno's concern prompts her to inquire about the urgency behind their quest. The golem, with solemnity, begins to unbutton his clothes, revealing his deteriorating body. He explains that golems have a lifespan of 1,000 years, and he has already lived for 998 years and 253 days. With only 1 year and 112 days left, he needs to return Somali to her real parents before his life functions cease, leaving her alone in the world. Shizuna wonders if Somali knows the truth about the golem's fading existence, to which the golem responds that she hasn't until now. The realization dawns on Shizuna that this journey is also a farewell. The golem doesn't fully grasp Somali's feelings, prompting Bashir to explain that Somali is content, evident from her smiles. The next day, they bid farewell to the dwarves, with Yabashira giving Somali sweets for the journey. The golem cautions against overindulgence, but Yabashira assumes that the golem can make more if needed. The golem accepts this with a smile. As they depart, the dwarves watch the pair, fondly noting Somali's happiness and promising to meet them again someday. Somali smells the empty sweets bag, and the golem checks their map, realizing they are in a remote location with a long journey ahead. Somali expresses her love for walking with her father, which makes the golem contemplate his conversation with Shizuna and the limited time he has left. Holding Somali's hand, they continue their journey. After their long walk, Somali's legs begin to wobble with exhaustion. The golem points out the nearby settlement, the bustling Antil city, a popular marketplace for travelers. Its winding streets resemble an ant colony, and getting lost here means being lost forever, the golem warns, making Somali cling to him in fear. The golem goes about his usual routine, selling some of his wares to a shopkeeper. Meanwhile, Somali, captivated by the new surroundings, peers down into a large sinkhole. A wolfman notices her and questions her presence. Terrified, Somali flees back to her papa. As for the golem, the money he earns from selling his items isn't as much as he had hoped for, given the city's well-stocked markets. The shopkeeper suggests that odd jobs might be more profitable in Antle City. Hearing Somali's hungry stomach, the golem leads her to a restaurant, but it's empty. Somali spots a box moving outside and calls her papa's attention to it. They discover a bunny monster hiding inside the box and a gazelle monster named Chichilla. The gazelle apologizes, explaining that they aren't open yet. Chichilla attempts to escape but is captured by Somali, who finds his fluffiness irresistible. Kakola, the restaurant owner, apologizes for the misunderstanding and introduces himself. He explains Chichilla's situation, whose exhaustion stems from caring for his ailing mother and energetic children. The golem, now an employee, offers to help with the staffing shortage and is promptly hired. Kakola's limping wife, Gina, is introduced. The golem advises Somali to stay at the restaurant, allowing Tequila and her to play. As they wait for the ink-filled pencil, Tequila and Somali discuss their favorite games and time spent with their fathers. Somali shares her longing for new games, and Tequila empathizes. The restaurant opens, and the golem waiter amazes the customers with his impeccable service and extensive knowledge. He even goes as far as analyzing the nutritional content of the food for the diners, which draws laughter from one of them. When asked about his purpose, the golem jokingly replies that he is actually looking for humans to eat, but in truth, he is searching for them. One of the customers mentions that they have met a traveler who spoke of humans being seen at the west end of the Azuna Desert, a promising lead for the golem. However, the iguana man cautions that crossing the desert is no easy task. Still, the golem waiter appreciates this valuable information. Meanwhile, Keel endearingly observes Somali's dad and expresses his wish to stay and work with them forever, so he and Somali can always play together. Tequila, however, guesses that once Somali's journey ends, she will be going back home. Somali ponders the uncertain future that lies ahead once their journey concludes. Still lacking funds for that trip to the desert, the golem continues on with his job as a server. Kakola is absolutely impressed by his performance in the restaurant, and Gina even says that he actually deserves double what they're paying him. Somali tries to grab her father's attention, but he brushes her off since he's busy working. Teal asks Somali what she likes to play, but she sadly admits that lately, things have been boring, and there aren't any new games. After counting the day's earnings, the golem unintentionally leaves Somali feeling neglected. The next day, Kakola asks Tequila and Somali to run an errand. The golem, initially hesitant, agrees with the condition they return before nightfall. Kakola inquires if he has overstepped, but the golem explains that Tequila is Somali's first friend, a bond he doesn't want to diminish. The children retrieve the package and sit down to enjoy a treat. Somali suddenly bursts into tears, fearing her daddy wants to leave her. She desires to stay with him forever. Tequila suggests searching for Yama flowers, legendary blooms that can fulfill wishes. Unaware of a watching wolfman, they embark on this quest. As they explore underground tunnels and encounter magical creatures, Somali and Tequila venture further into the enchanting forest, discovering a vast field of Yama flowers. Somali makes a heartfelt wish to stay with her beloved golem forever. However, an ominous presence looms nearby, a colossal mushroom poised to snatch Somali. Master Muthurika, the wolfman, appears and saves them, revealing their mission to protect wandering children. Somali's wish, pure as it is, defies the natural order of the world. Yet, there remains a glimmer of hope for her and the golem to stay together. Golems are steadfast overseers of nature, never interfering with the world's order. But here is one breaking that tradition, caring for Somali, giving away parts of himself to spare her tears. He is unlike most fathers, yet he embodies the essence of what a father should be. As long as she can be with him, Somali's happiness knows no bounds. Back at the inn, the golem is worried about Somali. The chef assures him that his daughter will be fine on her own and he must not stay worried about her for long. However, the golem does not pay heed to the words and dives into the work again. On the flip side, a wolf man named Matrika saves Somali from the vicious herbs inside the cave. It turns out that he is Kakila's teacher, and he scolds Kakila for not adhering to his instructions and coming down to this dangerous place all his own. Kakila assures his friend Somali that she must not fret about his teacher. The wolf standing before her may look scary, but he is the savior of this region. He is also part of the Tsuchinoko team, an organization responsible for the underground chamber of Anthal City. Recently, Matrika has been busy stopping trespassers from entering this place. He thought Somali was sneaking around, so he followed her to this depth. We see Somali's flower begin to lose its glow and die. She appears quite disappointed in the quick drooping of the flowers and anxiously inquires about the fate of her wish. Mathrika explains that the flower will not survive by the time she gets out of the cave. The flowers die if they don't receive nutrients from the mystical Tsuchiyami trees. The smaller trees do not offer complete nutrients to the flowers. As a result, the flowers are left underdeveloped and they fail to survive when they are plucked. When Kikilla aspires to show her the way to the stronger trees, Mathrika dismisses the idea. The place Kikilla is referring to is filled with dangers and a girl cannot survive on her own. He tells them to follow him on his way out of the cave. However, determined to make her wish, she tells him that she will not leave without finding a better flower. Mathrika goes on to further explain that this underground realm is even larger than the city above, even though his organization has never been able to explore all of it. But this does not stop Somali from combining the right tree for her wish. After convincing Mathrika, the trio goes deeper into the grotto to find a flower for Somali's wish. Striding past the rocks, trees, and rivers, undeterred Somali follows the lead. Even Mathrika cannot hold himself from applauding her high spirits. They arrive at a field of mushroom spore puffs. After jumping through them, they reach the core of the cavern and discover a giant Tsuchiyami tree surrounded by flowers. As Somali picks one, they are interrupted by a massive lizard monster. She explains her reason to the lizard for picking the flower. The lizard, observing Somali and Kikilla, leaves without harming them. Mathrika explains that it was a Suchai lizard, a guardian of the Tsuchiyami tree and the flowers as well, and the fact that it lets Somali go means her wish will be granted. They make it back to the diner but are late. Somali presents the flower to the golem, but he is angry at her and scolds her for coming late and straying off from the errand. This causes her to break into tears, and she runs to her room after explaining why Somali wanted the flower. Mathrika encourages the golem to hear out her side of the story. His daughter risked her life just to make her wish of staying with Golem be granted. Mathrika goes on to advise the Golem that being a good father he must not control his daughter of the fears lurking in mind. Golem wants to hear her out and apologize for acting so harshly on her, but before he has a chance to, Somali suddenly becomes sick and refuses to eat. The Golem rushes out to buy medicine. He realizes the trauma Somali is feeling may, in part, be his fault due to neglecting her. He has to spend all the money he has earned so far on medicine. On his way out, the Golem rebukes himself for never realizing how hard this has been for Somali and taking her intricacies for granted. As Somali rests, Kikilla's father advises the Golem that parenting has its troubles and that it's always a learning process. The next morning, the Golem apologizes to Somali for putting her through so much and promises to stay with her forever. He keeps working at the diner since he used the money he had earned on Somali's medicine. As he opens the diner, he is approached by Mathrika, who indicates he knows the truth about his dwindling lifespan, and that his promise to stay with Somalia won't be kept. A few days later, Somali and the Golem continue their journey. Somali says goodbye to Kikilla, who breaks into tears upon hearing about her departure. However, Somali promises she will come back in the future with her father, and Kikilla then can travel with her wherever he likes. They take a wagon to cross the desert. Golem looks out for her throughout the way. Due to the high number of sandstorms in the night, they are impelled to travel in the scorching heat when the sun is out. They arrive in Anicap village, a town built into a caldera of a volcano to shield it from sandstorms. The duo goes to a restaurant, where the villagers serve them a wine cup. When the Golem inquires about the drink, the villagers explain that it's a custom in their village, hailing from the days when there were no traces of the village and the first travelers gathered at this place and shared their drinks. The drink is offered as a wish for their safe passage through the dangerous sandstorms, especially the dragon tornado. In the restaurant, Somali ends up in a fight over the last serving of ice cream. During the fight, the kid notices something strange about Somali. She introduces herself as Yuzoi, a harpy who is traveling with Hadora and ailing alcohol. As they share the table and Hadora deliberates about the modes of traveling in the desert, Yuzoi's gaze is stuck as if she is contemplating something about Somali. Yuzoi further shocks Somali when she offers the ice cream that she was willing to fight for earlier. Hadora explains that he is sick, and they are traveling in search of medicine, and Yuzoi has chosen to help him in these tough times. When asked, Golem and Somali reveal that they are on a quest looking for humans. Golem adds that he studies humans, and the search is to aid him in the study. Upon hearing the Golem's and Somali's reason for traveling, Yuzoi offers them to travel together on their wagon, an offer which they graciously accept. However, we see that Yuzoi figures out Somali is human through her smell, and schemes to use her to save Hadora, who is also a human but is slowly and violently morphing into a harpy. The next day, Golem helps Hadora with the luggage while Somali and Yuzoi are busy with the wheels. Yuzoi iterates that she has changed the wheels so that they can steer through the sandstorms, and the journey continues without any interruptions. As the group prepares to leave, Hadora is disturbed by Yuzoi's plan, but she is ready to do what it takes to save her companion. As they are running out of time, the group begins their trek through the desert. Somali is apparently pleased with the wagon's design. She is not being affected by the outside heat due to the good ventilation of the wagon, and she applauds Yuzoi for her perfect design. Their journey through the desert continues as they stumble into sandstorms and desert beasts along the way. A monstrous sand shark, one of the deadliest creatures of the desert. As the night approaches, they use a crystal finder to find a luminescent cave to spend the night. The crystal finder is a unique crystal itself, implying its attributes they can find other of its kind. Somali likes the sound of crystals inside the cave. However, the similar sound annoys Yuzoi since she belongs to the Harpy clans, those who have heightened senses. While Golem and Hadora prepare the tents for their sleep, both Yuzoi and Somali go in search of light sources. They grab a handful of torch flies to use them as light sources for the night. Yuzoi inquires about the relationship between the Golem and Somali, but she does not seem to know much besides the fact that he is her father. However, Yuzoi is not convinced. When Somali inquires about her family, Yuzoi explains that she lost her parents when she was a child and Hadora was the one who looked after her in the tough times. Hadora means the most important person in her life, a case pretty similar to Somali. After spending the day and getting to know Somali, Yuzoi starts to second-guess her plan but reassures herself that she is doing this for Hadora. As she and Somali go in search of water, Hadora realizes what's about to happen. He knows how wrong it is to hurt an innocent child and decides to reveal to the Golem that he is human and that they must stop Yuzoi. We see her suddenly pinned down by Somali, who tells her that her blood will save Hadora. As they search for Somali, Hadora tells the Golem that he and Yuzoi were informed by a strange soothsayer that his tainted blood would be cured by finding new clean blood, so Yuzoi intends to take Somali. On the other side, we see Yuzoi telling Somali she must kill her to take her blood, causing her to scream. Her scream sends Yuzoi into disarray, allowing Somali to escape. She runs for her life, contemplating why Yuzoi is after her. She thought Yuzoi was too nice and they have become friends, but her actions speak otherwise. Somali glides through the tides, but she is not a match for Yuzoi, who is all out for her blood to save her master. Yuzoi flies through the air using her wings and catches up to Somali. As they engage in a physical rage, Somali struggles to keep her ground and she falls into an underground pond begging for help. Yuzoi, unable to stand by as she drowns, decides to save her. She helps her with her wing to keep her calm. She subsequently apologizes and reveals the reason for her actions. Golem and Hadora arrive, and when Golem, burning in rage, begins to approach Yuzoi, Somali puts herself before Yuzoi and explains to her father that instead of hurting her, Yuzoi actually saved her when she fell off the cliff. He must not reprimand Yuzoi for her earlier actions. Yuzoi apologizes to Hadora for doing something so awful and breaks into tears in his arms, expressing her love for Hadora. That night, Somali cheekily takes a dig at her friend Yuzoi and calls her a crybaby. When Yuzoi reiterates her apology, Somali maintains that she is her friend and Somali has already forgiven her. As everyone sleeps, Hadora begs pardon for Yuzoi's action, and the Golem in response maintains that he does not reapproach her actions, since it is understandable for someone who loves his guardian so much, that her actions have a ground. Hadora reveals that even though he may look similar to Yuzoi in his appearance, they belong to two entirely different races. The reason for her being him is because he ate her mother long ago. Hadora once had a family in a small farm town, but it was attacked by monsters called Grotesque. During the war, left homeless, some of his companions were tortured, having their arms and legs cut off, while others were eaten. However, Hadora and his family found solace in the jungle. Running out of food, he had to come out of hiding. During his search for food, he encountered a harpy, which turned out to be Yuzoi's mother. He mistook her for a Grotesque and killed her. As a result, he brought her to his family's hideout to eat. Doing so turned his family into harpies, and they died. He was left slightly deformed, but he survived. Later on, a young Yuzoi approached him and became attached to him. In the present, we see Yuzoi is awake and hears Hadora's entire story. The next day, while continuing their desert voyage, Yuzoi and Somali are swept away during a massive sand twister. By analyzing the wind, Golem soon locates them, but they are being chased by a monster. He comes up with a plan to save the girls, but Hadora decides to risk his own life instead by distracting the monster. Having the burden of his past sins, he intends to give his life for Yuzoi as payment. Instead, Yuzoi saves him, forgives him for living a lie, and tells him to live for her sake from now on. After seeing them, the golem begins to feel guilty regarding his promise to stay with Somali, knowing he won't be able to keep it. While Somali and Yuzoi boast about the tasty delicacies they have brought, the golem and Hedora deliberate about their journey from this point. Although they have come too deep in the desert, the golem intends to keep looking for humans to the end of the desert, the place where has heard rumors about human existence. He hopes to locate the remaining pockets of human civilization before the time runs out. As the night approaches, Somali inquires to Yuzoi regarding the questions troubling her. She aspires to know what happened to human race. How come they are reduced to the number of extinction? Yuzoi, however, is quite reluctant to answer. She covers it up, maintaining that she does not know much and Somali must focus on their early departure tomorrow morning. However, it appears that Yuzoi does have the knowledge of the unfortunate incidents which brought the human race on the brink of collapse. Outside, the carriage golem is worried about his depreciating physique. The cracks have begun to grow, and he fears he may no longer withstand the aging. When Hedora approaches him, thanking him for encouragement to remain with Yuzoi, the golem opens his heart before Hedora. He goes on to tell Hedora that he has less than a year to live. Hedora suggests he visits a village west of the desert where information from all over the world is collected. The next day, the group reaches the end of the desert. Somali can feel the difference in the temperature. It has started to cool down. She is happy that they have cleared the desert unharmed, but deep down is gutted that soon she will be parting ways with Yuzoi. Yuzoi assures her that she must not take it on her heart, as they will soon be meeting after Hedora is cured from the sickness. With the hopes to find the goals they are after and to see each other soon, they part ways towards their destinations. After some adventurous traveling through the forest, they arrive at the magical village run by friendly witches. Golem is astonished by the unique settlement of this village. Suddenly they are approached by a friendly girl who offers them customary Wicca wine, which is safe for the children to drink. One after the other, the villagers offer her custom food and she does not decline any of them. Later, the golem reminds her that their purpose of coming to the village is not to eat but to comb for humans. They find the Witch's Crest library to conduct their research on humans. It contains all the world's knowledge, and the witches are the caretakers of the library. They collect, sort, and protect the books. Hazel, the librarian, tries to find the book about humans, but it's missing. She realizes it has been taken by her sister, Praline. They find her in a section of the library. There, Somali finds the book regarding humans called the Chronicles of Harasso, but she is suddenly attacked by book-eating monsters called pesky fish. Praline and Hazel deal with them by using spells, making quick work of them, but a massive pesca fish appears and targets the book. Somali tries to escape with it, but the attempt is in vain as it is destroyed by the monster, who subsequently turns its attention towards her. The golem intervenes and stops the beast but loses most of his armor. He sprouts wing-like bones to stab the monster, killing it. Somali tearfully apologizes for Golem's injury and for losing the book. He reassures her that her safety is what matters. The witches check to see if someone has previously read the Chronicles and find out that it was read 304 years ago by Isolde Nebsov, the library's director. After considering the failing health of the head librarian, Praline is hesitant, but after a request from Somali, she decides to give the golem a map of the library to find their way. The book contains the secret passages to the head librarian's place. They reach a ventilation point, which appears to be pretty far down. Golem asserts that the head librarian must reside on the lowest floor of the library. As they are making their way through the library, they are caught by security monsters and branded as intruders. The guardian of the library calls for the guards and heads to the alarm area where Golem grabs Somali and jumps into a pool of water. They manage to escape the daggers being shot at them. Amidst the escape, they follow an illuminated path guided by a mysterious voice. It appears that they have arrived at the heart of the library where the aging head librarian resides. They are caught by the witches and are about to be arrested, but the head librarian instead requests that they be sent to her. When the golem inquires the director about the book, she reveals that she wrote the Chronicles of Harasso and, in doing so, drove the humans to their destruction. She tells the golem about the experiences she and her ancestors had with humans. When she was a young girl, we see that a girl named Feodora crash-landed in a village of humans due to a storm. It is the village of Horizon, the largest human settlement in the area. The village was governed by a golem called Herasia. The golem of the village checks her well-being. The girl has got her leg injured, but luckily there is no serious injury. The golem heads out to bring her water and food. The villagers reveal that she was found by the golem. He is nothing short of God to the villagers. He was the one who helped them with the place to reside and ensured their safety. Moments later, Feodora mistakenly inquired about the species of this villages. Little did she know that the villagers consider other species as their enemies. Due to their fearful nature, humans don't take kindly to monsters, so the golem tells her to keep her true nature a secret. We see Feodora had grown accustomed to the culture of the village, but her feelings for humans changed when she saw the villagers mob together to kill a peaceful neighboring monster. In addition, she ended up revealing her true nature to save a villager from falling to her death. Instead of being praised for her actions, she is branded as grotesque, the human term for a monster, and is forced to leave. She finishes the story and tells of humans residing at the end of the world. She also reveals that she knows Somali is human but is proud to have met one who loves their world. After having smiled at her last moment, she passes away as her body disappears into butterflies en route to their next destination. On their way into the jungle, they face rain showers. While Somali Cherish plays with the frogs in the rain, Golem is entirely focused on finding a shelter to save themselves from the rain. Soon they find a tree shelter and decide to request the owner to let them stay for the night. However, it turns out that the house is empty on the inside, making it a perfect place for them to stay. Golem asserts that the house belongs to the sugar candy makers, a delicacy often sold in the village. As the night approaches, Golem prepares the meal for his daughter, though he may not show it, but Golem is quite anxious if his body will last long enough to withstand the journey to the end of the world. His thoughts are interrupted when Somali comes inside with the book in her hand. The book appears to be a cooking guide left by the owners of this place. The book is a perfect match for a foodie like Somali. She seems to be getting hungry again upon hearing about the delicious dish recipes, and she insists her father prepare any of the dishes for her. With the abundance of supplies in the house, he decides to prepare a dish Somali. However, even an empty place does not shake Golem's faith in honesty, so he leaves money for using their food and lodging their place. Golem decides to prepare her a coarse flour souffle, a cake made with bird eggs. Golem puts the book beside him as if it's the technical order for a technician. He goes through the instructions and duly follows them, while Somali serves as his assistant in the preparations. When Somali boasts of the hot, delicious souffle, Golem senses footsteps as if someone is approaching the wild place. However, when he opens the door, the Golem is taken aback by the sudden arrival of two known figures, Shizuno and Yabashira. They are also shocked to find them. The next day, the two join the group to continue their journey. They travel to a snowy savage town, a city filled with a strange savage air. Yabashira explains that this city is an attraction to all kinds of criminals, from thieves and murderers to smugglers. Golem inquires Shizuno why he insisted on stopping at such a dangerous city after all. Shizuno explains that he wants to find a dentist in this town to learn from him. They find the dentist, who is a mouse-looking creature named Sok. He tells Shizuno about the ways of dentistry, which appears to be quite a painful procedure. But Somali becomes fearful due to her new dental problem. Golem notices Somali's strange behavior. When he asks her about it, she flees and runs into a trio of ruffians. They try to extort money from Golem, causing an alley brawl between them and Golem. The two also help him during the scuffle. Somali runs to hide at a safe place, but she stumbles on her face and her tooth comes free. Upon their return to the dentist, he informs her that it was a baby tooth and would be replaced on its own. The dentist gifts them a pouch to keep the baby's tooth as a memento. Golem graciously accepts the gift and keeps her tooth in it. In need of a place to stay, the group is approached by an innkeeper who offers his place as thanks for getting rid of the gang from before and also in exchange for being the inn's bodyguards. The group agrees to it. So, the innkeeper takes them to a lodge at the edge of town. After putting Somali to sleep in her new bed, Shizuno and Golem have a chat over tea. Shizuno confirms with Golem that Somali is human. He reveals he has known it from the beginning from the smell of her blood. Golem tells Shizuno that the day he chose to be Somali's father, he ceased being the guardian of the forest. We saw a young Somali in chains passing through the jungle. Golem told him how he had met Somali in his forest while on patrol. He had passed by a toppled cart full of dead humans that had been attacked. These humans had all been locked in cages. A cat had led him away from the wreckage to where he had discovered a girl bound in chains beneath a tree. When she suddenly called him dad against his will, though he did not understand why she insisted on calling him father to this day. Maybe she had been desperately in need of shelter, a guardian figure to protect her from the coming challenges. Ever since she had called him father against his will, the young Somali had begun following him day and night everywhere. Although golems do not interfere in the affairs of other creatures, yet he had understood that without his intervention, the human girl would starve to death. He had provided her with food and inquired why she had been so persistent in staying in this forest. After all, Somali had revealed that she had heard from her fellows that life outside this forest was very dangerous for humans. Though he had kept warning her not to follow him or call him father, the girl had kept following him and calling him father. Over time, Golem had begun to grow attached to her. He had freed her from the chains and even ended up saving her from drowning when she had jumped into a pond to retrieve his recently lost armored shell. Golem had decided to leave the forest with the girl and subsequently named her Somali based on the animal that had initially led him to her. After he finished sharing his poignant story and revealed his deteriorating body to Shizuno, Golem's condition became even more apparent. His once sturdy form was now a testament to the toll his journey had taken. His body exhibited signs of decay, with fluids seeping out and his joints emitting ominous creaks. Concerned for Somali's future well-being, he earnestly implored Shizuno to look after her in case he should succumb to his condition before locating a human for her the following day. Their group received an assignment to serve as bodyguards once more. Golem and Yabashira dutifully set out to fulfill their responsibilities, leaving Shizuno in charge of caring for Somali. Over the next few days, Somali dedicated her time to pondering the ideal present. She was inspired when, by chance, she accidentally knocked over a collection of colorful balls of yarn. As the yarn rolled across the floor and unfurled its vibrant threads, an idea began to take shape in her mind. She decided to embark on a heartfelt endeavor, pouring her time and effort into knitting something special for Golem, a token of her appreciation that would carry the warmth of her gratitude. In an unexpected encounter, innkeeper Rosa arrives at their location bearing essential supplies. Inside, she finds a young Somali engrossed in knitting. Rosa, moved by Somali's determination, offers to teach her to make a colorful bracelet. Patiently, Rosa guides her through the process until Somali grasps it. Overwhelmed with joy, Rosa hugs her tightly. However, that night, Rosa crosses paths with the trio who harbor suspicions about Somali's true nature. Trembling with fear, Rosa reveals that she has discovered Somali's secret. She is a human child. As they wrap up their daily duties for the final time, Golem and Yabashira come across Rosa. They thank her for the supplies and tell her they will leave the next morning, even telling her the path they will take. Rosa expresses her concerns about their choice of the road. She tells them that the path is not safe and suggests a safer route for their travel. After all, she wants Somali to be safe. Inside the house, Somali is busy finishing her bracelet with the help of Shizuno, while Golem shops for supplies for their trip. That night, when the Golem returns home, Somali presents Golem with her gift and is happily surprised when he gifts her a similar bracelet he found in Tao. Before they prepare the meal, Shizuno calls for an important work. He brings them out to play in the snow. They all play in the snow, enjoying a great time. They also build snowmen resembling themselves. The Golem suddenly sees a hunting party in the distance in search of humans. Yabashira cannot comprehend why they are after them even though they are not accompanying a human with them. This is when Shizuno makes this shocking revelation and flips Yabashira on his head. He finally learns that Somali is human, but he agrees to help her as they have now become friends with her. Yabashira stays in the house to distract the hunting party while others flee to a safe place. He succeeds in distracting them and rushes on the horse to a nearby mine. Golem asserts that this old abandoned mine will take them to the other side of the mountain without taking the road. While they trek through the mine, Somali thanks Shizuno and tells him that he is her best friend. He finally understands what Golem means when he says he wants to protect her smile. As they continue, Golem notices that they are being approached by another hunting party. They rush forward only to end up at a broken bridge with no other options left. Golem decides to carry the other two and jump down into the cavern below. He slows their fall using his bone wings, landing safely at the bottom. They make their way toward the exit when Rosa appears and, under the guise of helping them escape, leads them astray. As they reach a dead end, she blocks their only path, locking them in a cage. It turns out that their dear Auntie Rosa has been working with the hunters all this while. Although Golem can break through the cage, he chooses not to, as doing so will use too much power and reduce his operation time. Rosa tells them how her childhood village was persecuted by a nearby human settlement, even though her townspeople were nothing but kind to the humans. She learned it was because of prejudice, so when the war started, they decided to take revenge on all humans by enslaving and selling them. The hunters approach for the kill, but as the Golem attempts to fight, he instantly collapses in a heap and loses an arm, having used up too much life energy. The hunters take Somali away and lay her on a table ready to kill her. Out of desperation, the Golem uses his remaining energy and transforms into a monstrous, hulking figure. Everyone is startled by Golem's transformation. He targets the hunting party and attacks them with fireballs, prompting them to run away in fear. It appears that Golem has lost his sense of self. He chases them down, dead set on killing them. Just as he is about to kill Rosa, he is interrupted by Yabashira. Golem knocks him out of the way and turns his attention back on Rosa. Somali blocks his path to stop him from killing, which causes him to come to his senses and shut down. He awakens a few days later in a forest meadow and apologizes to everyone for his actions, adding that his injuries to himself will not heal as the others will. Golem analyzes the damage to his body, but for some reason, he is unable to calculate his remaining time. Shijuno also notices his reduced function as he fails to pick up a glass of water for Somali. That night, he and Shizuno go for a walk where he tells him that his physical capabilities are crippled and his allotted time may be shortened, but he still believes something can be done to help. Golem tells Shizuno that there are things he just can't fight, and it may be time to leave Somali. He replies by telling the Golem that he will support whatever his decision is, but he should think it over. The next day, the group arrives in a town. The town is celebrating the annual harvest festival. Golem decides to enjoy this time with Somali, fearing this might be the last time he sees her. He walks with her, buying her whatever she wants, while the others watch a carnival show with the Honest. Golem sneaks away, feeling that his time to depart has come. When Somali realizes this, she sprints off to find him, locating him in a nearby forest. She tells him that she wants to stay with him forever, reminding him of their promise. Golem tells her that she is better off without him, using his recent explosion of rage as an example of why he should be alone. She pleads with him to stay, eventually causing Golem to realize he truly has emotion. He sheds a tear and hugs Somali. He tells her that his only wish in the world is to remain by her side. With a renewed promise and bond, the father and daughter carry on their promise to stay together forever.